Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in. If you are new here, my name is Dee and today I'm going to show you how I made this beachwear skirt. I love how it turned out and I hope you love it as well. Kindly support my channel by subscribing if you haven't done so yet. And with all that being said, let's get started. So this is the yarn that I'm going to use. It is 2 of 1's color theory. It's an all-season yarn. It's 100% acrylic. It's a size 4. It recommends a 5mm hook, but I'm going to use a smaller hook, which is a 4mm hook. So let's get started with the tutorial. We're going to start with a slip knot. Okay, there are so many ways to do this, so do it the easiest way you know how to. Insert your hook and make a chain of 4. So chain 1, 2, 3 and 4. After that, you're going to yarn over and make a double crochet in the first chain that you made, or in the 4th chain from the hook. Insert your hook and make a double crochet, then chain 1, yarn over again, and in that same space make another double crochet. Then you'll have something like this. So after that, we're going to start row 2. To start row 2, you're going to chain 3, turn your work, and on top of this very first stitch, you're going to make a double crochet. And when we do this, we are making an increase. So this is our first increase. Next, we have a chain 1 space here, and we're going to place there a stitch. So insert your hook and make a double crochet, yarn over, and on top of this next stitch make 1 double crochet, make a double crochet in the next chain 1 space, and then you're going to make 2 double crochets on top of this last stitch. Insert your hook and make 2 double crochets. And at the end of row 2, you will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stitches. Okay, now we're off to row 3. To start row 3, we're going to chain 4, turn our work, and on top of this very first stitch, we're going to make a double crochet. So here we've started with a chain 4, which counts as a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. So we've made our first increase here. Chain 1, yarn over, skip a stitch, and into the next, make a double crochet, chain 1, skip a stitch, make a double crochet into the next, chain 1, skip a stitch, and you're going to make a double crochet on top of this last stitch, which is a chain. So on top of that third stitch, you are going to make 1 double crochet, chain 1, 1 more double crochet in that same space, and that marks the end of row 3, and this is how your work should be looking. I hope it's clear enough. So now we're off to row 4. To start row 4, chain 3, turn your work, yarn over, and on top of that first stitch make an increase of 1 double crochet. Now we have the chain 1 space, and we're going to place there a double crochet. Next is a double crochet stitch from the previous row, and we're going to place a double crochet on top of it. Next, make a double crochet in the chain 1 space, and we're going to repeat that all the way until we get to the end. Make 1 double crochet on top of the next, and a double crochet in the chain 1 space, and repeat that until you have 1 stitch left. Then here we have a chain 1 space, and don't forget to place there a stitch, then yarn over, and you're going to finish with 2 double crochets on top of that very last stitch. and that's how we're going to keep building our triangle. Okay, now this is row 1 2 3 4. Row 5, you're going to chain 4, turn your work, yarn over and make a double crochet on top of that first stitch, yarn over, chain 1, skip a stitch, and into the next make a double crochet, chain 1, skip a stitch, and on top of the next make a double crochet, chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet into the next, and you're going to repeat with this pattern until you have 1 stitch left. Okay, so once you get to the end, we have this 1 stitch left to skip. So I have chained 1, and I'm going to skip the next stitch and place my double crochet on top of the last one, then chain 1 and place 1 more double crochet in that same stitch, and you should have something like this. And these 2 rows is what we're going to keep repeating as we build our triangle until we have half of our hip measurement. Okay, so as you can see, while making the mesh row, we start with 4 chains, but when making the double crochet row, we only make 3 chains. And the reason for that is because we chain 4 here, which counts as a double crochet, and a chain 1 in between. So I hope that makes sense. Chain 4 to start the mesh row and start with a chain 3 while making the double crochet row. All right, let's do it one more time. Chain 3, turn your work, and on top of that first stitch make a double crochet in the chain 1 space, double crochet on top of the next stitch, double crochet in the next chain 1 space, and repeat the pattern until you get to the end, until you have 1 stitch left. When you get to the end, don't forget to place a double crochet in the space between the last 2 stitches, because we have a chain 1 space right there, and then place 2 double crochets on top of the last one. So the 3rd stitch right there, place right in that stitch, place 2 double crochets to complete the row, then chain 4, turn your work, yarn over, and on top of that same stitch make a double crochet, chain 1, skip a stitch, and on top of the next make a double crochet, chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet on top of the next, chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet on top of the next stitch, chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet on top of the next. Again, you're going to repeat this pattern until you have enough length for half of your hip measurement. So once you're done with the first one, after you've gotten half of your hip measurement, you're going to start a second one, and once you have your 2 identical pieces done, I will be back so I can show you guys how to join them together and do the rest. Okay, so this is how your work should be looking. I have a total of 30 rows right now, and I have already made my second panel, so you should have 2 identical panels by now, and we're now going to join them together and then start working in rounds. So before that, I'm going to show you how wide it is right now. So remember, this widest part has to be half of your hip measurement, and for my case I'm going to be using a hip measurement of 42 inches. Keep in mind that your work is going to stretch, especially if you're using acrylic yarn. My actual hip measurement is 50 inches, but as you can see, I used a hip measurement of 42 inches, but this was able to fit me perfectly with no issues. So we're now going to join the 2 pieces together. So while joining, we're going to join from the right side of our work. Alright, so we're going to join the first part, and to do that we're going to make a slip stitch on top of this first chain that we have. So insert your hook and make a slip stitch like so. I'm not going to cut my yarn, so to join this side I'll use this strand. Then I'm simply going to insert my hook in this last stitch, pull through, chain 1, pull tight. So we have now attached everything together, and we're going to be working in rounds. Okay, so make sure that your last row is this row of double crochets. To start our first row working in rounds, we're going to chain 4, turn your work, then yarn over, and then you're going to skip this first stitch, and on top of the next you're going to make a double crochet, chain 1, skip a stitch, and double crochet on top of the next, chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet on top of the next stitch, and then you're going to repeat that all the way around. Okay, so repeat making this pattern, and I will meet you at this point where we joined from. Oh, and another detail, don't forget to identify the wrong side of your work. So this is the wrong side of my work, and this is the right side. Okay, so let's continue working in rounds, and I will meet you at this point so I can show you guys how to work around this point, and then we shall continue. Okay, I'm here guys, and once you have chained 1, here I have 1 stitch to skip, and I'm going to skip it, chain 1, then we have a stitch here which we were supposed to skip, but we're not going to do that. We're going to yarn over and insert our hook in that last stitch and the stitch next to it. So we're basically going through both stitches at the same time. Then make a double crochet like so, chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet into the next, chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet into the next, chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet into the next, and you're going to repeat that. You're going to repeat with this pattern all the way around. I'm at the end of my row and I have 1 stitch left to skip, so I'm going to skip it. I've already chained 1 and I'm going to slip stitch on top of the 3rd chain. So here we have a chain of 4, so into the 3rd chain, slip stitch into that chain like so. Then we're going to start our next row, chain 3, turn your work. Remember to turn your work because it is very important. It's going to keep your work looking neat and uniform. Okay, so chain 3, turn your work, yarn over, and in this first chain 1 space make a double crochet on top of the next stitch, double crochet in the chain 1 space, double crochet on top of the next stitch, and you're going to repeat until you get to the end. So we're not just repeating the same pattern, but we're just now working in rounds. That's the only difference. Just remember to always turn your work at the end of every row. Okay, I'm working on my last stitch. So once you get to the end, you're going to slip stitch on top of the chain 3. Slip stitch, then chain 4 and turn your work. The chain 4 again is counting as a double crochet and a chain 1. Yarn over, skip the next stitch and double crochet into the next. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, double crochet into the next. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet into the next. And you're going to repeat that pattern. You're going to repeat this pattern all the way around, and I'll meet you at the end. And we're basically going to repeat this row, the last 2 rows that we have made in rounds. That is what we're going to repeat until we have our desired length. Alright, I'm at the end of the row and I have chained 1, and I'm going to skip this last stitch and slip stitch on top of the 3rd chain. So slip stitch to join like so, and you're going to keep alternating between the last 2 rows we have, the row of mesh and the row of the normal double crochet. Remember to turn your work again so that your work can match up. I'm going to do the rest of camera and then I will be back once I'm done so I can show you guys what to do next. I'm at the end of my last row and I'm going to slip stitch on top of the 3rd chain like so. Chain 1 and cut off the yarn and pull tight. I have made a total of 14 rows from where we joined from. That means for the whole skirt I have a total of 44 rows completed, but feel free to add more length to your skirt if that is what you're trying to go for. So make sure you end with the row of double crochet. Okay, make sure that's your last row and not the mesh row. After that, you're going to make a slip knot and make a chain long enough to go around your waist. After making your long chain, you're going to use your darning needle and pull the chain through this last row of double crochet that you made. I'm going to go through two double crochets at the back, 2 double crochets in front, back and forth until I get back to the front. You're going to use this string to tie it tightly around your waist until you feel comfortable with how it feels. The last thing we're going to do is add our fringe to the bottom part. So we already have this tail hanging, which we're going to leave there. So guys, I ran out of colors, so I'm going to mix in this other brown color, and I'm going to grab about 4. You can make your fringe longer. Since I ran out of yarn, I decided to go for short fringes, but I would have preferred to go with a very long fringe. So starting from this first space that we have here, we're going to insert our hook under this middle stitch and then attach our fringe like so, and then pull through everything like so. And there, the first fringe has been attached. We're going to add our fringe in every row that has the mesh. So ignore this double crochet row, but where we have this mesh is where we're going to attach our fringes. So this here is the next one. Okay, so you skip the next row, and in the next one you attach the fringe, and I'm going to continue like this until I attach until I do the same thing on this other side of the skirt as well. So we're basically attaching our fringe throughout the whole bottom of our skirt. I'm going to continue. When you get to this space, make sure to put a fringe right in this space that you have right here. Add fringe to these two spaces that are right where we joined from. Okay, so be sure to add some fringe there, and I'm going to continue attaching all my fringes until I finish the whole skirt. Okay, see you in a bit. And this is the look we get after attaching the fringe. What do you think, guys? This brings us to the end of the tutorial. Bye bye.